should I say ho, 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 and welcome to our Christmas special podcast, Two Men and a Business Continuity Plan with Charlie, James, and our special guest, Santa. For those who are new to the podcast, clearly our special guest is known to everybody around the world, but we don't know who Charlie and James are. So Charlie, short introduction, please.
Yes, so business continuity practitioner by trade for the last about 25 years via Army Utilities and then my own company. So, and then now Data Barrack. So, yep, that's me.
Yeah, I'm James, 30 years in the police, last 11 years doing my own consultancy, known Charlie 20 years or so, and do organisational resilience. Fun-packed episode today, so let's jump straight in. Today we're talking about operational resilience through a very festive and slightly tongue-in-cheek lens. We're going to look at Santa's business continuity plan and what Christmas teaches us about organisational resilience. We're asking the big question. Does Santa actually have a business continuity plan? And if he does, what organisations can learn from it? Because as we know...
I thought you were just about to ask, does Santa exist? And we all have to say, of course he does.
Absolutely. If you're not a believer, get off the podcast. If you don't believe, go now. It's as daft as not believing in business continuity. They are one and the same. They are magical to everybody who we bestow with the gift of business continuity. Not just at this time. It's all year.
Oh yeah, yes.
So
it's just not for Christmas.
Christmas operation is one of the biggest logistical exercises on earth. So it's a perfect model for resilience. Or is it? So let's start with looking at Santa's operation, the scale of that operation. If we treat Santa as a chief executive officer, what does his operation actually look like, Charlie?
Well, I think, I was just having a think about global supply chain. I think Santa has more recently, or maybe Santa's always had, is followed the supply chain trend of onshoring. So I suspect if you've got your elves working for you in the North Pole, that's a lot less worry than worrying about, well, Chinese produce a lot of things, so worrying about the Chinese supply routes and worrying about to make sure everything's going to arrive in time. And if the Houthis start firing a few missiles in the right direction, they're going to go around the Horn of Africa, so it's going to take longer. So I think Santa's just following a sort of global trend of making sure that he builds everything at the North Pole on top of the shop so that he doesn't rely on long supply chains. I don't know if you thought about that, or do you think he's maybe a bit raw materials have to come there, or do they sort of magically just build everything in the North Pole?
Well, I think he's got to get them from somewhere. But I do like your onshoring. Do you think Santa and Donald Trump are kindred spirits then? Because obviously Trump is very keen on bringing everything back to America. So do you think he's following Santa's model?
Both spend a lot of time spreading joy and happiness to all men. That's all I'll say. That's all I'll say on the latter.
Yeah. And you know what? Yeah. Santa's never won a FIFA Peace Prize.
Exactly.
Has he?
Yeah.
So it's
I really can't really say much to come back. But yeah, I think building stuff with as long as we know with a shorter supply chain is best because of just in time. You can be a bit more reactive to the market, which Santa has to be, because if the new toy actually only sort of starts coming out in September, every kid said, I want that one, then you need to vary your supply chain. So I think building with a bit of magic on top of the shop is probably better than relying on long supply chains from around the world.
Absolutely. What about, do you think he really takes into consideration his stakeholders? Because you mention faddy children are basically his customers. The elves are his workforce, reindeers his transport, and the regulators look after the naughty and nice compliance.
See, I was thinking about, when you have disruption in business continuity, there's a few things you can do. You can you can take longer to deliver something, which really with Christmas you can't really do that. You can't change the date. You can what else was on my list there? You can deliver less, but I think that Santa maybe follow that thing about quality. So sometimes in business continuity, if you have a disaster, what you do is to say, actually, I'm only going to sell to my best customers. So actually, if you had a disaster, what you could just say, I'm not sending to naughty children this year. The naughty children not getting any presents because we've got a limited amount of staff and a limited capacity, and I've had some sort of disaster, so naughty children will not get anything.
I'm a big believer in that, but that would leave you off the list, wouldn't it, Charlie? You'd be getting nothing again.
I think I'd be good.
Yeah, all naughty children, if you ask them, are all going to say that they've been really good this year. Well, you mentioned tight MTPD, maximum tolerable period disruption.
Yeah.
He's got to deliver. Now, I know we're in a global evolving timescale, the east to west approach, where you start, where the day comes in first and you finish where it goes out last. That's going to be tough, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that the ability to deliver is Christmas is one of those dates where you can't move it, because that's the other thing, is that it's just, if you can't supply today, you supply tomorrow or the day after or the day after, and you just had to say to your customers, I'm sorry, you're not getting your service today, but I'm going to give you service in a week's time or 3 days' time. And I think it's one of the few days that you can't actually change the date. I think there's other big global events like maybe the Olympics or maybe the World Cup where, there's so many moving bits. And I think Christmas is one of those for Santa. So many moving bits, you can't really change the date. I've been watching a bit unfestive, but I'm loving it. Band of Brothers for the program about D-Day, and they changed the day to D-Day. They put it back one day because of the wind. So some events you can change, even something as massive as D-Day, but Christmas you can't change. So you've just got to go with what you've got on the day.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. How do you think Santa, because is he old school or does he rely on technology? Does he use routing algorithms to work out how does he work out all those chimneys, finding those chimneys and making sure he gets the right presents down the right chimneys at the right time?
Yeah, he obviously hasn't outsourced it. I noticed in the news yesterday was you could just throw the parcels at the door. What maybe you should save money a little bit by outsourcing it to some of the companies, and they can just throw it at the door and not actually put it down the chimney or put it in the stockings or the pillowcases, which way you can. I think there are certain things in life that need to remain mysteries. And how he does it, I think, needs to be one of those wonders of Christmas, which we don't try and find a scientific explanation. I think we just have to admit it just happens, and that has to be. There are probably more worrying things to worry about. So I think the kind of algorithms and things like that, I'm sure there is some magic there, but quite what it is, I'm not quite sure.
I hope this isn't the approach you employ when you're doing your BIAs with the organisations you work with, when you say to them, it doesn't really matter how they get there, we'll leave that as a mystery. What do you think when you're looking at risks?
The end process may be the same. It's just there is a bit of there's a bit of process to it. But
Yeah, I thought that. Yeah, no, without a
sometimes,
doubt.
yeah.
Well, what about weather, climate risk? You know, in this, if we believe in, you know, changing and evolving climates, how do you think Santa's coping with that? You've already said, because we had a little chat before we came on, that you're up in the middle of the Highlands of Scotland on an island,
Yeah.
and your dog wouldn't even go out today. So what about poor old Santa? Because he's got to go out, hasn't he?
Well, I think one of the things I was having a look at it, and I swear I said I would get it in Salisbury Cathedral clock, which was started in 1386 and has been going pretty much continuously since then. And you know, it of course it does a little bit of downtime because it needs to kind of repair every so often, but it's been going pretty much continuously. So there, so sometimes I think with climate and weather and things, people just find a way of making things happen. I think Santa does that. Oh yes, we may have more climate in the future than we perhaps didn't have in the past. But I think if you go for, I don't know how long Santa's been going for it. Did he give presents to dinosaurs? I'm not sure. But did dinosaurs hang out their little stockings and Santa came when they ruled the earth?
Yeah, of
Not sure.
course.
I don't think history books tell us that, but you know, they tell us lots of useful things. But that would have been a really useful thing to tell us. Did
Yeah,
dinosaurs?
did dinosaurs get Christmas presents? Yeah.
Yeah, there's something to ponder over the Christmas holidays.
Oh, absolutely.
But I think if you've gone for long enough, you have lots of different disruptions, and you have to work through them and get through them. So I think Sam's been going for years and years and years. So he's probably had most things happen to me on the way, and he's managed to make it happen. So
do you think
I
that's
think
important then? The more, you know, the more battled hardened you are, the less you rely on plans. Because I'm a big believer in that.
yes, I do. I do think if you've seen it before, or you know, oh, we've done that before. I think yes, historical memory, even if it's not the same people, I think is really important. You know, there's kind of quite a good case studies about aircraft carriers and how aircraft carriers are very, very complex machinery, and everything's integrated, and the sort of margins for errors are huge, but they managed to make them work without any, on the whole, planes crashing. They also managed to turn over the crew every 3 years. So somewhere within that, there's an institutional memory. There's enough people and procedures and ways of doing things to make sure that that institutional memory happens. So I think you're absolutely right in that. I think Santa's got that institutional memory from, could be back to
Do you think
dinosaurs.
Santa is a single point of failure though? Or do you think, I mean, I was with my granddaughter to see one of Santa's helpers who looks like Santa, but as we know, isn't Santa.
Yeah.
Do you think if Santa has considered single point of failure, whether or not he's got a band of helpers, I don't mean the elves, the helpers out there that can fill in at short notice?
I think he must do, because what happens? He has a snuffle. What
Yeah.
happens? He has the flu. So I think yes, I think there is a band of helpers out there, stand-ins of people who can do it. So hopefully you don't want the young apprentice this year. We want we want the guy who knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, let's hope they've done the induction course.
Exactly. Yes,
because that's the thing. I mean, it's pretty specialised. What about staff shortages in the North Pole then? Elves go sick, reindeer throws a shoe, burnout.
You got a year. You got plenty of reindeer. I can't remember them all. Maybe you've got some. Maybe got some redundancy. So if Rudolph has a bad day and I'll throw in a shoe, then gone lame. Then you've got enough spare, so you can probably maybe run it with four reindeers. But you have a couple of redundant ones there. I think you've also got a year to, so I suspect you kind of do quite a lot of planning in advance to make sure that you hit those deadlines, and you're building quite a lot of slack.
Yeah. Do you think stockpiling is the key? Start early, start January the 1st.
Yeah, I think stockpiling that, but you have to have, for all these things, you need to have a bit of flex so that, when those late toys come in, or someone's been naughty or someone's been good, you can up them or down them.
Yeah, and the unexpected new babies.
Oh, yes, exactly.
So
yes.
you've got to think, I don't know how many global births there are, but that is going to be pretty difficult to predict.
Yes, there must be. So that's quite that is quite a bit of calibration needs to be done.
That is
probably have quite a large control center.
Yes.
In all that data, crunching all that data.
Yeah. What about reputation then? Because Santa's all about reputation, isn't he? What would a late global delivery do to Santa's PR, brand value, customer loyalty?
I think it's inconceivable. It just has to happen. I think it's like well, you just had to lower the quality, isn't it? Like if you've got all your Christmas shopping on Amazon and those parcels don't arrive because you didn't quite order them quick enough, or the Amazon has some problem with there are other current places you can buy stuff, then you just have to go and dig out something and go down Sainsbury's and go and buy. The kid might know exactly what they wanted, but they're getting something. So it's about sometimes with Christmas presents, not Santa presents, but the other presents, sometimes you just have to say it's coming on the next day, or I have bought it, but
do you think he outsources PR? Do you think he's got a crisis comms firm in Helsinki or Lapland or something? That
he's not going to fail. So failure is just unacceptable. So
that's a bit of a he's not going to fail. I think that throws out everything we've done over the last 25 years, really, Charlie, that it's not going to fail. Is that an ostrich head in the sand moment? Because do you not think it would be a good idea for Santa to have engaged on retainer a PR firm just in case? Because in the middle of the crisis, who's going to help Santa out?
It just reminds me of that phrase, past performance is no guarantee of future. What's it, future compliance? The future thing they do, say with your financial institutions.
Absolutely.
Yeah, maybe it does, but I think you just work on the principle that failure is not acceptable.
Yeah. So, I'm not quite sure that's going to get us through. Really, yes. But I like that. I like that. Proactive. I like that confidence, bordering on Santa arrogance potentially. That he doesn't need help and backup. What about things like Santa's Plan B? Because you said he can't fail, but that's unrealistic. Do you think he has do you think he has contingency plans, or do you think he goes generic BC planning?
No, contingency plan generic. I think he just has a plan and he just sticks to it. I don't think he has contingency plans for everything, because there's so many stuff you can do. So do
you think he use a risk-based approach to planning?
There's a question. Risk-based approach to planning. Well, I suppose I think you have to kind of foresee the risk. What you might have to say there's a bit of a storm over, I don't know, some of the Pacific Islands where he starts. So you might start a bit further down here and go back there a bit later. So I think you've got some margin error. So I think you probably have to look out and say, actually, maybe we need that control center needs to do a bit calibration to make sure that it takes into the optimizing the path. So yes, it might have to do a bit of that. Optimizing is quite a good word.
Do you think the team, because you'll obviously have a crisis management team up in North Pole, do you think they run regular scenario planning to develop plans, exercises to test plans? With some scenarios, product recall of toys, elf work to rule.
Yes, I think that I think for Santa, probably it's more of a risk-based approach. Is you have to try and foresee the problems and try and head them off before they can do, rather than putting contingency plans in once they happen. Because I think, by then, once they've happened, it's maybe a bit too late. But we can't. If something happens suddenly, we can't predict everything. So I think they had to have their antennas very finely tuned to make sure you can take in that sort of global.
Yeah, bit of both then. I mean, there's a lot of risk to consider obviously in a global tight operation like he's got in that 24 hours of actually doing it. But obviously there's plenty of time in the build-up. What about his facility then? Do you think it's going to be state-of-the-art, hardened against extreme weather, creates its own energy? What about physical security? What if those polar bears go crazy and want to storm his facility?
I think, yes, I think you have to. I think it has to be quite ready for extreme weather, because the North Pole weather isn't that great. And actually, isn't the North Pole, isn't that on the ice? So actually, at the North Pole, it's on the ice. So you don't want global warming too much, because it might, a facility of that size on the ice might, you don't want it to drop through. Yes, polar bears. Yes, you need to watch out for those polar bears. Yeah, but I think maybe they kind of do. Maybe they come and do a bit of warehouse. Polar bears would be good at warehouse work. I think they might do a bit of warehouse. They might be employed in the warehouse as surge staff, especially in the last couple of weeks. That's why we don't see them very often. Maybe they're all working at the.
It's true, because you wouldn't need forklift trucks if you've got some big, strong polar bears around shifting stock, would you?
Yeah.
So, what about things like? Do you think there is temporary workforce? Things like that. Do you think he considers that? You mentioned earlier about having additional reindeer ready to rock and roll.
I think you just have to plan your workflow for the year, and then you have to build in some slack. I think we always need to build in some slack, so we take into cover. I was speaking to somebody the other day about whether they should have a percentage of people off sick before closing the office, and whether you should have, at the moment, because there's a lot of flu going about, and say, look, if we start to have 10 or 20%, we'll close the office. And I was saying, no, if people are sick, just go home, don't come back to work until X, whatever X is, 10 days after it, 5 days after it, whatever. So I think, you have to plan for your workforce, and you have to plan for sensibleness, and I think you have to plan that there are going to be some incidents along the way. So, because if you run hot 100%, you're invariably going to have some mishap, park,
Yeah.
Flare.
Do you think there is a North Pole culture of resilience? The BCI are very, very keen on embracing business continuity by getting business continuity in the head and in the heart, getting that inner belief in business continuity and what it can do for the organisation and for the individuals. Do you think the elves have got strong engagement? Mrs. Santa, do you think she's on the team?
There must be a real culture of resilience, because you can't fail, and because that you have to deliver on that day. There is no wiggle room, and you have to deliver the right things to the right people, which is about quality control. I do think there must be a massive culture of. I think we maybe should go and visit it. Get one of those trips with the kids to the North Pole. To go, I'm sure Santa, if you go to Lapland or North Pole, and say, "Excuse me, Santa, I'm not interested about the toys. I really want to have a look at are you embracing? I want to talk about your resilience culture here, because we believe it's really strong. What can we do to learn from you?"
North Pole factory tour.
Yeah.
But like Harry Potter, I was there last Christmas. Fantastic. Maybe Santa should do something for BC professionals to show us, how good he is. Well, what about innovation then? We looked at how long Santa had been around, and I believe it was 270 AD was the first sort of mythical Santa was around. So, do you think he continually innovates? Do you think he's got into AI? I mean, I love AI. I know you love AI.
Yeah.
Do you think Santa is using artificial intelligence in a let's take the pressure off type way?
No, I don't think so, because I think he's got his magic of how he does something, and
But
that
isn't
magic.
that, no, that is AI.
Yeah, but we
AI's
didn't have
mad. Tell me how it
AI.
works, Charlie. Tell me how AI works, and I'll be amazed.
No
Isn't AI
idea how it
magic?
works. It just does.
Well, there you go. Santa uses magic. We, as consultants in business continuity, use AI to help us. That's our little bit of magic,
But a
isn't it?
thousand years ago, they didn't have it, so
No.
it's obviously that culture has been going on for years. But actually, tell you something has been a couple of other things that's been going on for a long time. I did the Japanese imperial house has been going 1,500 years, so that they actually predate Santa. So that's a continuous there. And they also also reading about Zoroastrian temples where they have
Oh,
fire temples, and they claim. I'm not sure anyone's really kind of verified it in India and in Iran that they have been having temples with fire for 1,000 years. So there is that longevity of things. Now, I'm probably keeping a fire alive for 1,000 years is probably quite hard. And keeping a kind of culture with industrial imperial house, keeping that for a long time and making sure that it adapts and something. So I think there are sort of human examples, maybe not quite as good as Santa, but there are examples of where for a very long time we've been doing things and adapting and changing with technology and wars and famines and all the other things that happen to us along the way. So it is possible to adapt, but I think Santa's probably done it better than most.
yeah. You mentioned, and I think one of the things that's come out really is the pressure, because on the workforce, there's a massive amount of pressure to get it right on the day. Do you think there is psychological well-being, in case an elf gets burnout or psychologically stressed? Do you think Santa's and Mrs. Santa and the team have got that nailed? Because there's an awful lot of pressure.
It is an awful lot of pressure, and I think there's so much to be done. I think it's perhaps maybe about culture of delivery. There are certain post offices. I was thinking about someone like the DOC where they have sort of walls and it's almost collapsed day, but still you can get post gets through. There are posties in there
Yeah.
doing postal stuff, and they have a culture of this isn't what I do is important and I have to deliver and I will deliver come what may because that's my job. And they take pride in their job. And so there are other jobs, emergency services who see there's a fire, they don't go and say, oh, that's a bit about a big fire, I think we'll just leave that for today.
Yeah. They don't say, oh, it's a bit chilly outside, I can't go and arrest that burglar.
Yeah, like this poor dog here. Yes, it's a bit chilly. But people have cultures and cultures of delivery, and they know. Of course, there is burnouts even in people with cultures of delivery. But I think people know what the game is, and they know what they're going for, and they probably do it because of that culture. They like that kind of. They like to bring joy and happiness to people. So although
See, that's a really good point. Do you think because of what they do, and they're in a belief in bringing happiness to the world, do you think that is a real added bonus with staff engagement and staff turning up for work and staff giving the extra mile?
Oh, I definitely think do that. Where you have a job that's really well, nurses, poorly paid, long shifts, difficult job, but they get a lot of I suspect joy out of being helping patients, getting people better, looking after them, and it takes a certain person to do it. But I think you know there is reward in doing sometimes what is an easy job because of the outcomes of what you deliver. So, that is some of the reward, and that is often why you will go the extra mile and do the extra work, because you say, look, this is worthwhile. I am doing something. So I think Santa does very much embrace that culture.
Okay.
That's why it always happens, because I will be letting people down. And who wants to let down children at Christmas? What could be worse?
True. Actually, with that attitude, Charlie, if Santa was listening, and I know he is because he's obviously waiting in the background here, you might have actually made it onto the good list now.
Oh, I hope so. I hope there's a bit of flattery there that.
Yeah,
I'm not sure he's that interesting to read on my blogs, but
he actually mentioned earlier that he loves them, and he listens to this podcast regularly, and was very, very enthusiastic about getting involved, which is good. Well, Charlie, time has caught up with us.
Yes.
Any final words for the listeners before I wrap up?
I just think have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Hope Santa comes and brings everything you hope for. But have a good Christmas, New Year. Hopefully you don't get involved in any disasters, and we'll go and face what the new year brings. So a Merry Christmas to all.
Wise words. Final words for me then. Santa doesn't deliver Christmas by magic alone. He delivers it because he's got the best business continuity plan on the planet. And if he can keep that operation running, so can you. So thank you for being with us. Obviously, we will continue our podcasts into 2026. If you've enjoyed it, please like us, subscribe, comment, tell all your friends, and share. We are on all the platforms now. So I will see you next time. Happy holidays, and may all your continuity plans be merry, bright, and resilient. Bye now for 2025.
Bye for me.